What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Outside Interference. My name is Eddy Torres, and joining me today is my good pal, Alexis Mincolla of the band Three Teeth. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. How you doing, man?
Good, good. We have a lot to talk about, but I wanted to get some history of your background with professional wrestling.
Professional wrestling. Well,
Yeah.
First off, not a lot of people know this, but I was a state champion wrestler in high school.
Ah.
So wrestling for me was always very important.
Okay.
As I started wrestling in fifth grade.
Fifth grade?
Yeah, in fifth grade.
How old is that?
Yeah.
8?
Yeah.
Around that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So wrestling, and I have two other brothers. They were big wrestlers as well. So needless to say, wrestling was always around the house. And I sort of grew up like in the Attitude Era of the WWF at the time.
Right.
And I just loved it. It was something that for me, these larger than life characters, these dudes that didn't even make sense in actual, reality. I used to have all the wrestling buddies that, the Ultimate Warrior was a huge, we loved the Ultimate Warrior in my house. So it didn't make any sense. The guy was just like, anything he said on a promo was like, what's this?
Ace.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Monsters.
It was like steroids and LSD happening in the same person. Yeah.
That's awesome, though. So you don't have any, because some amateur wrestlers have issues with professional wrestling because it's not,
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, my high school yearbook quote was quoting Mr. T that I put the wham and the bam back in high school wrestling. I was actually disqualified for a match for pinning a person in a guillotine, which is a different move than a jiu-jitsu guillotine or whatever MMA is. But I had a free hand and I flexed to the crowd because I used to have sort of like people in the crowd, and they disqualified me. So I was always trying to bring a little of that energy into actual high school wrestling.
Yeah, I always found that lame when they come on, man. That's
yeah,
cool.
You're not like, everything's about sportsmanship, and like you're not allowed to do anything like kind of like showboaty or anything like that. But
And now they try to bring that into pro wrestling. Now we have the code of honor handshake.
Yeah, it's insane. And for me, it was mostly born on the fact that like hockey was really big at my school. So like everyone would go to the hockey games and no one would watch any of the wrestling meets because it's like, oh, I got to be in like a hot, stinky wrestling like room. But for me, I was like, what if I make it entertaining?
Right.
So I wanted to get like people there to watch it. So I was like trying to be my own promoter for the actual high school wrestling team by doing things like that, which got me in trouble.
Yeah. So why didn't you pursue that career? Why'd you choose music as opposed to maybe continuing wrestling and becoming a character like that?
I don't know. I mean, I do think there's certainly a lot of like performative sort of art in what we do in terms of like the character or the avatar that I play on stage. But it's funny because I met The Rock backstage at Monday Night Raw at the Staples Center. And that was the first thing he asked me because he's like, all this size and you're in a band? And I was like, yeah, well, But yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I never really had like the desire to pursue anything outside of that. Also, there's a different time period where like, MMA was like very fringe too. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like that was back when like John McCain was like, it's going to give people brain damage. It should be legal. Yeah. So like, the sort of advent of, I guess, this MMA crossovers into fucking, WWE, all that stuff is pretty new comparatively from when I grew up,
Yeah. I mean, there's still time.
Yeah, like if I was to tell someone I wanted to be a pro wrestler, then it was basically like telling someone like you're joining the circus. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think it was like considered something that people necessarily.
Right. Yeah, your parents would have frowned upon that.
Yeah, and I really don't think there was a ton of like cool independent sort of pro wrestling stuff either, like ways to kind of farm into it. And maybe they were, I just wasn't aware of them. But it's certainly not like the way it is now. The way it is now, exactly. Yeah. It was either like you were either a main dude or like just some dude in someone's backyard.
Yeah. There's a lot more avenues now, a lot more smaller organizations, especially here in Southern California. We got a lot like PWG, PCW, all these things. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not too late. You can still do it.
No, I think I'm good. I think at 40, like I am like happy when my back doesn't hurt. Just
maybe you can do you have that lizard mask. You can be like a heel manager.
Heel managers are absolutely, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to do a heel manager. Which you don't see a lot of like that type of thing in like the independent sort of pro wrestling, or at least I haven't. Maybe it exists now, but I used to go to PWG a lot back when it was over in Reseda at the American Legion, and there was not a lot of like even like any manager energy in this.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I saw one recently in like a CCW event, but yeah, and it's something that's missing, I think, in all of the organizations.
Yeah.
WWE has a few more, and I know there's a couple in AEW, but there's always a need for a heel manager or just a manager, some kind of other person there to do stuff.
Yeah.
The factions, I guess Japan kind of made it so that the factions are kind of like that, where if you have like a tag match, the other two guys from your faction are outside doing shit.
Yeah, and I think everyone's like sort of like mic skills got to the point where like, you know, they don't necessarily need the manager vibe anymore.
Sure.
Like sometimes maybe that bridged the gap for people that didn't have such good mic skills, but I feel like
there's some people that still need some help.
Yes,
that should not be on a microphone at all.
Yes.
So for you, is there, is it WWE? Is it AEW? Is it New Japan? I would assume AEW because you mentioned Reseda and
Yeah, it's cool to see all those dudes like who are like, you know, in an American Legion, like, you know, bumping into like lights that were too low on a ceiling are now on TV. You know, like that's awesome. You almost get a sense of like, you know, maybe
pride.
Yeah, like you're like, I used to see that band in like, you know, the high school gym, and now they're playing arenas or something like that. So like, there's something cool about that. So yeah, you know. I must admit, I'm very out of the game. I've been so busy lately. I've not been watching the the product as much as I probably should. And I stopped going to PWG when they moved it in downtown.
You don't like the Globe?
I went a couple times. I went to Battle Los Angeles, which is awesome.
Hola.
Yeah. But I don't know. I also been living out in the desert, so.
Yes, for those that are watching this, we just did an episode of the RRBG pod where we talked about his new album. But yeah, he spent 2 years in the desert writing this album and living disconnected from the world. Just to briefly let the wrestling fans know like what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was certainly an escape from I guess, Los Angeles pandemic lockdown that eventually turned into me just being in love with the high desert and not wanting to leave, and then also just taking way too much time to write an album. But for me, it was a really great experience that I enjoyed very much. But you lose some of the the trade-off is the sort of hustle and the bustle and the action and the entertainment of like what you get out of a metropolitan city. So yeah, there was no pro wrestling happening up in the high desert of Yucca Valley.
I mean, you could.
That I know of, at least. I'm sure maybe a few domestic disputes were happening up there that could qualify.
Yeah, there's a couple of lizards wrestling out there for sure. No, but I mean, you could have. There's like no TVs. You couldn't watch SmackDown.
I didn't have a TV.
That's nice. All right, let me ask you. What was the first wrestling match you ever saw on television?
On television?
Maybe not.
I saw the first. I can't remember that, but I can remember the first live wrestling I saw. It was at the Boston Garden, and it was a Royal Rumble. It was Roddy Piper. It was the Demolition Man. It was like the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Virgil. Like it was insane.
The Rumbles are awesome.
And I remember I was very young. It was me and my good friend Liam, and his father took us. And I'll never forget that after it, coming down the escalator, a fight actually broke out, and some dude got his head busted open, and there was like blood everywhere, and like my 8-year-old brain was like processing everything at once, and I was like, that was the coolest night I've ever had. Like I couldn't stop talking about it forever. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Rumbles are my favorite. I would say my favorite gimmick pay-per-view.
Yeah,
because it's the element of surprise. You never know who's coming.
It's mayhem. It's just
complete chaos. Yeah. I love that at some point there's always 10 or 15 people in there, and then eventually someone comes to clear house. But what's your favorite gimmick? Is it the Rumble?
I mean, it certainly has to be up there for me. Like that's one of the cooler things, and obviously it hits a sweet spot for me because it was the first live wrestling I ever saw, and for me. I think we were up in the nosebleeds too. There's binoculars. It was just they're real people, like people you only saw on TV. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have in your head one of your favorite matches that exists that, if you meet someone who's not a wrestling fan, you go, this is the match that got me into it?
I'm trying to think. Like I saw so many crazy matches at PWG that like I'm like, what is the one that really registers for me?
Well, like you could mention like also just like a Warrior, Hogan, like the older stuff too is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't have one that like really sticks out for me. I'm like not like that type of like I suck with superlatives in general. People are like, what's your favorite meal? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like it all depends. So for me, I don't really have one. But like. It would probably be like if it was like my favorite match, it would have to be something at PWG because that stuff was just the room. And it's funny because I compare it to like a little bit like a concert where, if you play in an arena, which I've been fortunate too when we were opening up for Tool, it's a very different vibe. It's very impersonal. You can't see anyone. It's like you're just basically like just in this. It sounds like a sea of people out there. And I imagine it's pretty similar if you're performing in front of an arena where it's not like, you can't hear people specifically, you can't see their faces. But when those dudes are playing or performing at PWG, it's like playing in a club show or something like that, where like you got to kill every motherfucker in the room. Like everyone else in that room is part of participating in that. And I love that energy. And I'm sure what you guys do here has a similar vibe to that. And I'd love to see it where it's like, that real sense of the crowd is a participant rather than just a viewer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what got me to fall back in love with pro wrestling in the first place because I had taken, I was watching it as a kid and up until the Attitude Era. And, I've said this story a million times on the pod, but when Stone Cold retired, I stopped. And it was like just the right amount of like age too. I had started a band. I was chasing girls.
Yeah.
Fuck pro wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what got me back in was when I moved here to LA, actually, a friend of mine took me to see PCW Ultra show, and I just saw the live, like smaller, vibe. And then they took me to bar wrestling, which was even crazier because it was standing room only. People were banging on the apron, just like a crazy punk rock vibe. Yeah. Somebody does a flip. They land on the crowd like a crowd surfer.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's funny. It's similar to me because I had really, I grew up on wrestling, but then really fell out of it as, just life comes pretty fast. You end up doing a lot of shit.
And so do I. Hey!
Yeah.
No,
So Adam, after we toured with Tool, he's a big wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so Adam Jones was like, hey, I want to bring you, I got you a ticket to this PWG thing. And I was like, what is this? He's like, just meet me here and like meet him there. Crazy line around the building. A sign that says no stupid signs. I was like, what is happening? Like I couldn't really process it. It was just like, and he didn't really give me much information about it. And then we just started going every single time. But he was like, all right, we had like, we're sitting ringside. He's like, all right, if they come over here, you got to grab your seat and you got to move it out of the way, like learning all the rules and stuff like that. And I think that like, that's what made me fall back in love with it was those Reseda shows at PWG were just so awesome.
Yeah, we're spoiled out here in Southern California. I mean, I know that I just got back from Miami and I saw CCW inside of a brewery in Florida. It was like 350 degrees in there, and it was nightmare, but everyone was having a blast, and I feel like that's the vibe that we need to bring more into popular, pro wrestling. Because what WWE does is great, but when you're there, it definitely feels like a production.
One thing is for the crowd and one thing is for the camera, and I think that like when you're at that scale, it's all for the camera. You know? And
it's a TV production.
Yeah, it's a TV production.
They don't really care what goes on in the arena during that time. As long
that doesn't mean it's not awesome. Like
it's still a blast.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Like at that larger than life, just crazy. We got fireworks inside an arena. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's same with concerts. Like you go see Rammstein in a giant stadium. If you don't have floor seats, or you're in like the nosebleeds. It's still great. It's still cool, but obviously if you were like down in there in the fucking floor, like that's when it gets wild. But that's what those shows feel like. It's like you're part of the show, which I love. Okay. Do you have a favorite gimmick wrestler? Like Doink the Clown?
I mean, Doink was awesome. I loved Doink. Doink was crazy.
The Repo Man.
It's funny, like... they're all sort of gimmicks in one extent or another. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like PWG and like AEW, a lot of it is athlete. Like Kenny Omega is
That's
the best wrestler in the world. It's not like, like I said, like the Repo Man or Duke the Dumpster Drozy.
I mean, it certainly was like, back in like, the 90s, everyone like had a gimmick. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I used to... Like for me, I just thought like the aesthetic of the Demolition Men was just crazy to me. Like
the
just
spikes
because,
and the harness
it was
and
just like, proto BDSM black metal. And I was like, who are these dudes? How are they dressed like that? And like, next thing you know, like I'm dressing like that as a grown man on stage. So like, there's something cool about how that was an inspiration.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, in terms of like, gimmicks.
Jake the Snake Roberts was one of my favorites.
I always thought like Big Boss Man was just a total fucking asshole, but a great gimmick, because everyone just like hates that,
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm terrible at superlatives. Yeah.
So okay, some of the guys you mentioned, you had seen some of the guys in PWG, and now they're on TV. Like, who are some of those guys? Did you befriend any of those?
I wouldn't say like. I mean, I'm not sure if I like befriended anyone, but like certainly like had some moments where I got to hang out with some of them.
Young Bucks, perhaps.
I mean, Young Bucks are awesome. I think those dudes from like Rancho Cucamonga or something. Like, they were local boys. Definitely got to hang out with them a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It was always just like, in between when people are selling T-shirts and you're buying T-shirts from them, and everyone just go, oh, that's like Adam and Lex, and I don't know. Not really like friends with anyone.
Just meeting them and being around
hanging
it.
out with them. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Which is cool, I think, about those shows. Like everyone treated everyone equally. Do you know what I mean? It was never like even like Adam is a huge celebrity. No one really treated anyone any differently. Do you know what I mean? Just like a sort of very equalized space. Which is cool.
PWG also has like a reputation for being like a spot where celebrity types would come hang out.
Yes. Yeah, like Ronda Rousey was sitting next to me one time.
Right. Yeah. So it's it's a cool vibe, and I think that's one of the reasons why it sells out so quickly too. Is like everybody's like, I want to be part of the cool kids club.
Oh wait, I thought of a good gimmick. Who's that guy? Orange Juice. What's his name?
Oh, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy. That dude's got a gimmick where he fucking won't take his hands out of his jeans. That's a good gimmick.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about any of it.
Yeah, it's just super cool.
I don't know if you've seen his recent intros, but if you YouTube his like entrance now, his pyro is literally like one little.
I love that. Yeah. That's such a unique, weird little gimmick niche thing that he had that like for some reason just wildly entertaining in person.
Like the first time I saw him, I saw him here live actually, and I was mad because I started letting that elitist kind of like metalhead vibe take over me. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy coming in here making a joke out of all this?
Totally.
And then, but then I saw him work like a lucha match. Like, for real.
No, he's super talented.
Oh, wow. Okay, never mind. He's cool. So I definitely he won me over with his work. Okay. Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling for you. Okay. Who do you got? 4 people.
I mean, you got to have Hogan on there. That's just a must,
yeah, brother.
I'm a big Stone Cold fan. I always loved Stone Cold. I think that like Kurt Angle, just for me, I would just thought was just like at that time period of the height of that dude was just that guy was just so wildly talented, and obviously crossing over, winning a gold medal with a broken neck. Like that dude's just for me one of the goats. Sure. I'm pretty sure he was on like 90 Percocets at the time too.
Oh yeah, Perk Angle.
Yeah. Wait, how many do we get in our Mount Rushmore?
One more.
I mean, I think The Rock just also changed so much of the game. The most
changed the world,
really.
Yeah,
totally.
Highest paid actor, possibly running for president. Although I doubt that'll ever happen, considering some of the promos he cut.
No, I don't think he's running for president. But the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
And then finally, what are your thoughts on this whole merger with the UFC? I know you like UFC. I mean, do you think this is positive for both companies?
I think it's cool. I think like when you think of like the quintessential crossover dude between both companies is like Brock Lesnar. Like, do I think there's ever going to be another Brock Lesnar? That guy's a freak. Like no one's like doing that. Like people aren't going. I don't think people are going to go from WWE to the MMA. But I think you might see more people coming from out of MMA and finishing out a career and doing some WWE stuff. You know what I mean? Who I don't know. Like, I think Conor McGregor would be amazing, but that guy's too fucking rich. He's not going to do it. You know what I mean? There's no reason for him to do it, aside from maybe some ego at some point down the road.
That's what I was going to say. Ego, because he's lost, he lost his boxing match, I think.
And who knows what his comeback's going to look like. I know he's all like, beefed up on the sauce now. And like, listen.
WWE loves the sauce.
Yeah, and I think that like the thing about Conor is like he can't get away from having a mic in front of him. So, maybe if the career wraps over there, I think that would be a cool crossover. I think that dude would make just such a good heel. Like,
Yeah.
just one of the best.
I wonder if there's any wrestlers that would do well in the UFC.
That's what I was trying to think about. Like, and I just don't necessarily think the crossover happens in that respect too much. You know,
Yeah, there's a couple guys that I know practice legitimately, like Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
Is a legit, he trains MMA. Shinsuke Nakamura also, to name a couple. Matt Riddle.
Riddle
started
in MMA, I think,
Yeah.
though, yeah.
Yeah.
And then got
And he got in trouble.
I used to watch that dude wrestle all the time. He was great out there.
He got fired recently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, too much weed.
I'm not surprised. He was a little spacey.
A little spacey. Too much weed. Too much trouble in the back. What are you doing?
Yeah, for sure.
Got to keep your nose clean. Also, you get fired. Go ahead. Cool. Well, I do have some news stuff. I know you said you're not keeping up, but feel free to chime in and talk with me about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with WWE stuff because there isn't a whole lot of AEW stuff, unfortunately. But WWE's got there's rumors from Sports Illustrated's Justin Barroso that's apparently everybody was clamoring that The Rock came back for that one SmackDown, and that the new plan was going to be for WrestleMania, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. But apparently that's not going to happen. Apparently there are no plans for The Rock, and Cody Rhodes is still the plan for the main event of WrestleMania 40. I don't know if you've been keeping up with all that story.
The Rock's not coming back. He's frying bigger fish. Do you know what I mean?
Well, is he? He's still on. They're still on strike. The SAG is still
True.
on strike. He
It's
has
true.
no work.
That's true. That's true. But he's out there on the campaign trail making videos with Oprah or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
It's getting weird.
Yeah, it's getting a little weird. I mean, I'll take The Rock over some other politicians, but
For sure.
just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
Also, only just for like motivational purposes. Like, I feel like he would inspire people to get up and work out in the mornings. Our current
absolutely.
president isn't doing that.
Also, The Rock is not as tall as you said he was, because I was in the same room with him and I was taller than The Rock. So
Wait a minute. Are you telling me they lie about their weight and height?
I know.
No
That's
way.
crazy.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of The Rock coming, look, the only way I talked about it last week with Eddie Firth here on the show. The only way it makes sense to me is if The Rock comes back, has his match, maybe wins or loses, and then night 2, Cody has his match with whoever wins or loses that outcome. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to see The Rock as a champion. It doesn't feel real.
No.
That time is gone. Do I want to see him on the TV more often? Sure.
Well, it's also doing him champion, they're going to have to take it away from him, which is just I don't know. They'd have to do it real quick, because it's not like he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I don't foresee the SAG strikes going for too long.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure eventually he'll have to get back to work. But that's the
There's
rumors.
Jumanjis to be made.
There's Jumanjis. I saw a meme the other day. It had 4 pictures of him that looked exactly the same. They're like, this is 4 different movies. He's always wearing that beige T-shirt and the fucking camo
very
pants.
into the earth tones,
My God. I mean, he is The Rock. So, yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to... I hope Cody gets his opportunity. I saw recently, he became tag champions with Jey Uso, which didn't make much sense to me. And they made him drop it on Monday to the Judgment Day, which... good. That's what... I don't know why they did this whole thing back and forth. Made no sense. Maybe just to let Cody hold some belts or something. I don't really know what's going on. It feels... WWE feels a little directionless right now. Like, it's a really hot product right now. It's as hot as it's been in years.
Does the writer's strike not affect that?
No. No.
So the writers on there are not union.
Not unionized.
Interesting. Didn't realize that.
All directly hired. So that's not affected. But at this moment right now, WWE is the hottest product in terms of social media, in terms of selling of tickets, in terms of ratings on television. It's back to being a popular thing, but it feels directionless. Like, Cody Rhodes is supposed to be this big star, and you're making him do tagging. You're tagging him with Jey Uso, who was also supposed to be in the middle of his solo run. None of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping something comes together soon. They just announced that Ari Emanuel, who is now the CEO of TKO Grouping, which is what they're calling the merger between UFC and WWE, the CEO of that company removed Vince McMahon from the creative process so he can focus on TV deals. And that's good because I think that's the main source of the directionless kind of confusion is that, some people in creative have an idea and then Vince would come in and switch it up day of the show, tear up the scripts, let's do something else, and everything just feels kind of weird and up in the air and doesn't make sense. So I'm hoping that moving forward now we'll have some more direction.
It won't be subjected to the whims of a madman, you mean?
Yeah, a 70-something-year-old insane person. Yeah.
Sure.
On top of that, LA Knight is continuing to grow. I don't know if you're familiar with LA Knight. He used to be Eli Drake in the Indies.
No.
That's where I first saw him here. Actually, I saw him at a PWG was when he was Eli Drake. He's a little older. He's 40, but I recommend you look him up. He's the throwback. People compare him to The Rock and Stone Cold all the time. But his popularity continues to grow. They finally had that face-off with Roman and him. The beautifully shot angle of his face with some round glasses, and you could see Roman's reflection on there. The production's getting better, but that also further confuses the plot. Do we give LA Knight the championship gold when we're still waiting for Cody to get his championship gold? Do we listen to the audience and give them what they want? They're full support of this guy. I don't know what we do in this situation. Apparently, in house shows, he's, doing his finisher on Roman. So who knows? Who knows where this is going? But I'm excited. I really like LA Knight. I think he has the potential to be a champion. I just think they need to figure out their shit soon and let Cody win the belt so he can move on. Because I feel like that's my biggest issue with pro wrestling, that the stories just never conclude. Yeah. You just cut them off. You start something cool and then you just cut it off and start something else cool. I don't know. But I will point out, he's on the poster for Crown Jewel that was just announced at Saudi Arabia for November. And the poster is Roman, Cody, John Cena, and LA Knight. And some of the ladies, I believe. I think Asuka and Bianca. But that shows you where they see him. If he's in the poster with John Cena and Roman, he's obviously top guy at this point. So we'll see. We'll see where they go with that. Jade Cargill's been on TV. She's one of the ones that moved from AEW to WWE. They're treating her like a huge star, but she hasn't wrestled yet. It's been now, I think, a couple weeks since she first showed her face on TV. Hopefully she gets a match soon, but I gotta say they're definitely positioning her to be the next big thing because she has had face-offs with the biggest names: Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, I believe also Rhea Ripley. By the way, if you haven't seen Rhea Ripley,
I have, yes.
You have, okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say
I met Charlotte too. She was really sweet.
Charlotte's cool. Yeah, Charlotte's cool. Yeah. I mean, she looks like she could be a bitch.
No, she's super not. She's incredibly nice, which is funny because she plays such a good bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I never liked Charlotte as a face. I don't know why they do that. It feels forced. Just let her be evil. Yeah. It's fine. Shinsuke Nakamura looking great. He's doing, obviously not big things. He's just doing mid-card feuds, but his new look where they're just focusing on the fact that he's, this crazy Japanese warrior, I'm digging. That they're letting him do his promos in Japanese is awesome. And the way that he's attacking certain people. His match with Ricochet on Raw felt like a PWG match. Ricochet did that crazy spot off a balcony, flipped in. I don't know if you saw that.
No, but that's a dude I used to watch.
Ricochet?
Yeah, he was awesome. Crazy talented.
It felt like an indie spot that they did, the in the crowd, second floor balcony flip into the crowd. That's the kind of shit you would see in PWG. But yeah, my other note, I had that season of what they did, the season premieres that they did on Raw and SmackDown this past week don't feel new at all. It's supposed to be a fresh new show. The only thing new that happened was that Nick Aldis from NWA is now a general manager of SmackDown. And that's cool. Hopefully that changes things up down the road. But the matches on this season premiere we've already seen. We've seen Nakamura and Ricochet. Even though it was a fun match, we've already seen it 3 or 4 weeks before that. Cody and Jey Uso versus Judgment Day. That thing's been going on for weeks, months even. So even though it was a season premiere, there wasn't a whole lot of freshness to it. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this starts to change.
What do you think caused that? A lack of creativity or just generally just You know,
it's a lack of writers, of good writers, I think. I'm sure they have their own writers, and no disrespect to them, but like, I don't know. They need to bring some people in that are fans that can actually give some fan perspective. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. The fact that the product is so hot right now, and you have a lot of talent that, you know, aside from their talent, they're getting over. The crowd likes them. Yeah. So, and obviously when the crowd gets behind someone, they want them to become a champion. And like when you have all these top contenders vying for the belt, I mean, it can get difficult. The Attitude Era pulled it off. Yeah. Because think about that time. You know, we had Triple H and Shawn Michaels. We had Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock.
But it's funny you say like they need like more like sort of fan input. When I was leaving Staples Center out the back door with Adam and we were backstage, and Triple H's assistant Terry was walking us out. The minute we walked out, there was like 40 fans holding scripts trying to put him into his hand.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought to myself, I'm like, that's interesting. I never would have thought that. But it seems like there are a lot of people that are trying to like just sort of get a foot in the door and sort of like waving their script in front of them. Probably happens every night, which you wonder if they're grabbing any of that and read it.
Yeah. I mean, I know Vince when he was in charge, but I'm hoping Triple H is a little more open to it. I know he has people that kind of like peruse the socials, you know?
You kind of have to. I think that's like, it's like saying like a game developer's not looking at that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like,
community.
You know, you have to sort of get that sort of like, they all have community managers to understand community feedback because realistically, there's good input in there. You know, there's good data, you know? Yeah,
absolutely. I think they should listen to some of the fans. Obviously, not all of them because they're also very fickle and
of course,
you know, like everybody wants LA Knight and they make LA Knight champ and then they're like, oh, we don't want LA Knight anymore, now we want this guy. It's like, all right, well,
they love creating and destroying.
right. So I'm hoping that some direction is given. I hope they just it feels like they just need to make a left turn or a right turn to fully put this back onto like Attitude Era. Because the crowds are hot and people are into it, which was a problem like a year or two ago. People weren't excited.
Do you think the advent of AEW makes the WWE better? Do you think it's sort of creating that sense of competition again?
Oh, absolutely. So I think, you're not watching the product, but a couple weeks ago they did a thing.
I just watched it on like Instagram.
They a couple weeks ago on Tuesday they went head to head because usually AEW is on Wednesday. They had NXT on Tuesday, but because of some baseball bullshit, they had to move AEW to Tuesday. So they went head-to-head on Tuesday, and NXT, if you're not familiar, is their developmental, you know? They fucking stacked.
Really?
They brought out John Cena, Paul Heyman, The Undertaker, Cody Rhodes, Oscar. Like, they brought all their big guns to fight AEW, and they won ratings-wise. Obviously, people are going to tune in to see those names. Like, how are you going to go up against The Undertaker? But you know, it shows that, like, they're definitely aware and they're definitely trying to fight and push back. And then, you know, I love AEW. A lot of my friends work there. Tony Khan lost his shit. Tony Khan is the head of AEW, and he went on social media just fucking like a kid. Like, he posted a picture that said bald asshole, you know, talking about Triple H, obviously. He kept posting, like, tonight we're going to go commercial free. And then, like, a little tweet of, like, oh, you want to be a bitch about it? Or you want to be an asshole about it? Like, he's acting unprofessionally, I guess.
Yeah, but also I feel like that's sort of like, that beef helps drive the culture in general. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's part of it, I feel like, where... You know, I can't imagine the healthy rivalry not just being good for wrestling as a culture overall.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, you know, wrestling right now, it feels to be more mainstream than it's ever been. You know, like, I think, what is that?
With Logan Paul and
and like, you know, there's that new movie with Zac Efron coming out, The Iron Claw, which is like going to be like, you know, a big, it's an A24 film, and it's all about like, you know, a really sort of heartfelt moment. Where I think that movie's like that's going to be the type of movie that's going to get like some big sort of like consideration, because I think it's going to hit a nerve with some people.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, when you get to show that side of wrestling, like the movie The Wrestler, which is fucking awesome. You know, I think that has a moment, and I think culturally that sort of sticks out, and people go, oh, this is something, you know, it pulls people over the fence. People that didn't really understand it, because I think, you know, growing up, people were like, oh, it's fake.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then people go, it's the realest fucking fake you're ever going to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about whether or not it's real or fake, but, you know, I think people get that now. People who don't like wrestling, I mean. I think people all have just a greater respect for it, which is cool.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think Joe Rogan's helped that too, with having a lot of these guys on. Where like, you know, he's been able to sort of tell these stories of like what it's been like for these dudes. You know, whether it was, you know, Hogan or
Flair.
Yeah, you know, Rick,
Taker.
Exactly. And all these guys have these big docs that came out, and you know, people are watching who never knew anything about wrestling, and they get, oh wow, I have a new appreciation for this. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad Rogan's coming around. I mean, I give him shit online about it because, like, oh, all of a sudden now pro wrestling's interesting to you.
Yeah.
Because he would talk so much shit. Yeah. But, you know, I got to also thank our buddy Tony Hinchcliffe, is sure it's in his ear constantly.
Oh, yeah. He's always got Tony on whenever he brings a wrestler on. Because he needs his professional expertise guy on there. So. Yeah.
But, you know, we're at a high right now with wrestling where it's definitely a main part of popular culture. You still have a lot of people, like you said, fuck you. Like, I have a bunch of my friends that are like, man, why you do all that wrestling? Oh, so much shit with wrestling. I'm like, every time professional wrestling is on television, it is the number one trending topic in all social medias. You go to X or whatever, Twitter, it's the number one thing. Oh, WWE Raw or SmackDown or AEW Dynamite. Like, it's always at the top of the trending topics because it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I also think that, like, culturally, I think that like wrestling has sort of bled on. Like, I feel like we're in the attitude era of politics. Like, I feel like the way politicians talk to each other, the way sort of everything tries to do ratings grabs, it is this sort of like really sort of heightened level of, you know, attitude and almost like a hyperbole. There's no room for sort of like calm, collective politicians anymore. It's like, who can out-hype the other guy? It's crazy.
Yeah, like I had a friend hit me up and bro, I can't wait for the debates. I'm like,
yeah, totally.
What? You fucking nerd? Like, what are you talking about? Debates? I want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, but I think the era of infotainment sort of has changed that. Where it's like now everything is like we need to present information with entertainment. So, you know.
I hope Trump hits Biden with a chair.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like, you know, in order to sort of beat Trump, someone's going to have to out-Trump Trump. You know what I mean? Which is kind
Ron DeSantis will show up with, like, you know, freaking ladders and chairs.
No, he's up there with his little fucking heels on. He's trying to, like, you know, he got his little genie shoes on.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Anyway.
It's all laughable. It's all a big fucking joke at this point.
Yeah. This is why you should watch pro wrestling.
Yes.
So you can understand politics.
Exactly. I really do think that. It's a theater of the absurd now, you know?
Oh, my God. All right. Going back to some of the news stuff. The crown jewel matches are kind of shaping up. We've got... I still have a hard time digesting the fact that they're doing pay-per-views in Saudi Arabia, but... Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins for the heavyweight title. Cool. I don't see Drew winning. I'm sure Rollins will win that one. The women, they did the thing that they do all the time, which I hate, and it's just put them all together. So we got Rhea versus Nia Jax versus Zoe Starks versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Shayna Baszler, who is like the only like legit murderer in that group of people. I would like Shayna to win the gold, but I don't see Rhea dropping it anytime soon. Mommy is always on top, as they say. That's her quote. Another match, Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul, which you pointed out was kind of a weird thing. Just
absolutely bizarre.
Like, why is Logan Paul calling out Rey Mysterio? Please don't let Rey Mysterio drop the belt to Logan Paul. Please don't make Logan Paul United States champion. I mean, it makes sense financially, I'm sure, in some kind of business senses.
Totally. Absolutely.
You know, but like, damn it. And the guy's talented. I'm not going to give him shit. The guy wrestles well.
It's also probably good for wrestling, going back to just like a person who's put wrestling, you know, in more people's ears. Because those guys are like become household names for an entire YouTube generation that probably knew nothing about wrestling.
Right.
So,
look, I get it. It's probably going to happen, to be honest. I'm just personally offended. I feel like the elitist is coming back, but, you know, I wanted Santos Escobar to be United States champion. He felt like they were positioning him for that. He possibly hurt himself, and they had to put it on Rey. And now Rey's going to drop it to Logan Paul. Like, I mean, I guess if anybody's going to drop it to give validity to his reign, it will be Rey. But I just wanted it somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's definitely like leaves you with a little dirty taste in your mouth.
Yeah, like I get the business move, but
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
All right. And then there's, the Roman Reigns will probably go up against John Cena, or maybe it'll be Solo Sikoa and John Cena. John Cena's going to be there. He's going to have a match. Why wouldn't you just give him the biggest match, which is Roman? But I see also the point of putting Roman's younger cousin, Solo, to kind of give him some shine and give him a rub to grow and go up against a legend like Cena.
Yeah, and it leaves a little overhead for that to happen later if
Sure.
Cena needs to go up against.
I mean,
Roman.
I don't need to see Cena and Roman again. I mean, it's happened.
Yeah.
We don't need that again. But and by the way, the internet's giving shit to John Cena because they did that segment I was talking about earlier with LA Knight and Roman Reigns facing off, and people were bitching that John Cena was trying to get attention, and I don't think they understood what was going on. It wasn't he was in the corner, like jumping around and like.
Cena's hilarious.
But he was acting the part of us in the ring. I don't know if you noticed that, but he gave the mic to LA Knight. He said, "This is your time," and let him go. And then he was just back there giddy like a kid.
Yeah.
Like every time they would say, he's like, "Oh shit!" Like he was trying to hype the crowd. What are you talking about? That he's trying to get attention? I don't see that. I didn't see that at all. So, internet, shut the fuck up. I don't know. Leave Cena alone.
Cena alone.
Leave Cena alone. Finally, we'll talk about some AEW stuff. Like I said, there's not much. Unfortunately, I feel like they've lost steam after Wrestle Dream. Wrestle Dream was fantastic. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it.
No, I'll check it out.
It's they did a pay-per-view with a lot of like New Japan talent. It felt like a PWG show. They had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, sorry, which was like masterclass.
I always thought Zack Sabre Jr. was incredibly boring. I don't know why, but
well, because it's like the
wrestling.
It's like the UFC, like when the like George St. Pierre days.
Yeah,
when
totally.
He would win by points.
Yeah,
you know?
but there's something about, I don't know. I mean, it's not my thing, but yeah.
No, well, now that he's had a few more years on his thing, it's still a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
But I watch it. I get more excited now just to see what new moves, because he'll find new ways to fucking pretzel.
Yeah, he's a technician.
He's a technician. Yeah. But that was a really good match. There was a lot of really good matches on Wrestle Dream. But I feel like there's not a lot of momentum going into the next pay-per-view, which is Full Gear here in LA. Which, again, I might be taking it personally. Like, I want an exciting show for Full Gear, and there's just nothing. There's nothing happening. There's no real stories. I mean, it's all over the place. Their current champion, MJF, is also a tag champion. It's I don't know what's going on. But I did want to bring up this Friday, Rocky Romero, my boy, versus Místico, who used to be called Sin Cara in WWE. He was part of the Lucha House Party or whatever. But they are doing a full-on CMLL Mexican luchador representation on Rampage. Like, there's the music and the video clips that they're going to use. This is all announced by Tony Khan. I'm not just making this shit up, but he's announced that they're going to go full CMLL tribute. So I'm excited to see that, and also for my boy Rocky, because he's a good boy. Tony Khan also. Okay, I mentioned this already. Tony Khan losing his shit in the Tuesday Night Wars. WWE had to bring the big guns to beat AEW, so we're going to give AEW some credit there. Like, I don't think a regular NXT show would have beaten AEW in the ratings that night unless they had brought in those big guns, you know? Adam Copeland. If you're not aware, Edge left WWE and went to AEW.
He goes by Adam Copeland?
Adam Copeland.
Because he can't bring the brand name with him?
So he brought everything else. He brought Rated R Superstar. He brought his song. Pretty much, but now, like, everybody that does a promo against him now brings up, "Oh, you have me on the edge of my seat."
Yeah, okay. Yeah. They've consulted the legal team and how much they can. You can use it in context of a phrase, but
just when you emphasize on the emphasis, So he couldn't bring Edge, but he's there. He's Adam Copeland, which is his shoot name, and he's going and doing promos with Ricky Stark, who's another one of those names that people have been throwing around that might potentially go to WWE. So I kind of see what they're doing there with that storyline. But apparently there was internet rumors and speculation that some of the promo that was cut was not scripted, not well received by either guy. Like, they were firing live rounds at each other on the promos, and there's some kind of real heat backstage. Maybe not. Maybe it's all a work. But I saw the promo, and it did feel a little uncomfortable. Some of this, Adam Copeland called Ricky Starks a vanilla midget, which I don't even know if he's allowed to say that word. I thought that was one of those words that we're not allowed to say anymore.
I mean, I think when it comes to wrestling, I think you can say midget. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to. I have LP friends now. I don't want to offend anybody. But yeah, I don't know. What he said when he called him that, I was like, ooh, okay, all right. What else do we got? Oh, there's also there's a lot of pictures I've been seeing online of AEW shows where they're showing half-empty arenas. And I don't know where this is coming from, because I do see the shots when the show goes live. They show the whole place. Obviously, there's a tarped-off area for hard cam, which that happens in WWE too. I've been to SmackDowns and Raws. They tarp off the hard cam side, which is usually where the wrestlers celebrate. So I feel like, and this is happening everywhere, politics, everywhere in our society, where there's this weird agenda to tribalize and like, oh, look at this half-empty AEW arena. WWE is doing so much better. Like, they're trying to position people against each other, which is, it could be fun if it was lighthearted, but like the internet isn't lighthearted.
Everything's a psyop now.
Yeah.
They're trying to psyop each other.
It's wild.
It's losing popularity. There's empty seats.
Yeah, look at Edge. He's celebrating in front of an empty stadium. And it's like, no, the rest of the place was packed. I saw the video. And it's just kind of weird. Like, that's what they're choosing to focus on. How about if you're a fan, go to the show. If you're worried about the attendance ratings and or like the ratings on TV and shit, support. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how, but don't openly attack shit like that online. It doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, I also think it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Just who cares? Like, you know.
It's wrestling.
Yeah.
Relax.
It's like attacking it for a band and be like, dude, there was no one at that show last night. I've been to shows where like no one was at a show and it was the best show. So it's like,
it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Stop
Other people's
worrying.
loss, you know.
Yeah,
Sorry if you can't afford to go.
Stop worrying about what other people are doing and have a good time. Enjoy pro wrestling. Like we were saying just before, it is in a boom right now. It is more popular than it's ever been. We have more talent than ever to enjoy on both sides, AEW and WWE. They're different products. AEW is more indie, athletic, sports like related, where WWE is entertainment, characters, and story. Can AEW benefit from more stories and stuff? Sure. But maybe that's not why I'm watching. Yeah. Maybe I'm watching because I want to see some flippy shit.
Yeah. And I think that, it's good to have a differential in the product. You don't want two things doing the same thing. You know? Right.
That's what you end up with, like WCW and WWE back in the day when that whole thing, and it all fell apart. Yeah. We don't want that. I don't want that. I don't think we want that. But anyway, I'm going to send you a bunch of pro wrestling to watch.
Please do.
So you can catch up.
And I'm around for a bit, and the album's out, so we're just around rehearsing, so I have time to put media inside my head.
Yeah, we'll go to a show. A local show. Yeah. We'll go hang out. But thank you so much for joining me today for some wrestling talks.
Yeah, of course, bro. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Yeah. Everybody that's watching and listening, if you want to check out Lex's band 3 Teeth, follow all the things at 3 Teeth.
Just add the number 3 and Teeth.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
And you saw he's a fan. He's one of us. So follow, listen to the music, and even the performative parts of your shows. Like it's a
little pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's a little pro
wrestling.
The
entrance is definitely pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So I come out with a trident. I start throwing people around. It's good.
Go check it out. Support the band. They have a new album out now, Index. It's out, available. You can buy it. You can listen to it. You can watch videos. There's a few videos out as well.
There's a few videos out. There's stuff out there.
Entertainment value is there. So please give them a follow. Follow me at RRBG Podcast for all the other things. And follow this show at Outside Interference Show. We'll see you next week.
Good shit, bro.